This is just the beginning. We're very fortunate to hear a little bit of broader context from Myra Margolin.
Yona said, Myra, can you do structural racism in Baltimore in 5 to 10 minutes? So. There are really actually two core things that I would like to convey to you. One is a shape and one is a figure. So they're different. We're gonna start with the shape. And if you leave here with just the shape in your head, then I'm happy, my mission is accomplished. 2 weeks ago, when all of a sudden the national media said, now we're gonna write about Baltimore, a lot of people who do not know Baltimore started writing articles like this that show how deeply segregated Baltimore is. Some said, oh, let's contextualize it, racial segregation in the Baltimore riots. They go into the history. Neighborhoods reflect segregation's legacy. They talk about redlining. My guess is if you've been in this community for some time, you've talked about redlining. Why does this bug me? It bugs me for a variety of reasons. One is redlining was important. It's very important that we know about it. The restrictive covenants, very important that we know about all of these. But that was a while ago, right? So this laid a groundwork. But there are policies and practices that are happening this instant that are not just continuing segregation, but creating segregation and creating inequity. And when we talk about the history, or we just sort of put up segregation without any current context, I think we really miss the story. So I would say that segregation is a symptom of something else, and that something else I'm going to frame as investment and disinvestment. So, that said, I'm going to show you my maps. I'm going to show you some maps. I've taken these from BNIA, from the Baltimore Neighborhood Indicators Alliance. We all can go there and get these maps. If you can see, I want you to just look at shapes, because remember, this first section, we're just talking about shape. So, I want you to tell me what kind of shapes you see. What kind of pattern do you see?
There's a line in the middle.
There's a line in the middle. This is the shape I would like you to just kind of burn into your brain. And again, if you've been doing a lot of work in Baltimore, if you live in Baltimore, you probably know this. But to me, this is what is crucial for sort of understanding the gestalt of what happens here. There's a line down the middle. What does this line down the middle indicate? This line down the middle indicates almost everything. This line down the middle indicates life expectancy, how long generally people live. I'm not sure if it's who live there or who are born there. Mortality for young adults is also differentiated by this line. And this is correlated, and we're not talking about any causation, just correlation with life expectancy. Storm drains also, right? The storm drains are clogged over here, they're not clogged here. And in addition to storm drains being clogged, there are also a lot of gun homicides over here and not so many over here. Unemployment, how much time it takes to get to work. So how much time it gets to work happens to be correlated with clogged storm drains. Number of businesses. So we can see that things look very, very different here than they do here. And so this phrase sort of has been floating around these two Baltimores, and I would say we need to understand the shape of the city and the shape of these two very different experiences. These experiences sort of here, and we can talk about the South too, and this experience down the middle. Why is this important? Well, firstly, when these racial segregation maps are going up, yes, in fact, this shape correlates very, very well with racial segregation. This is the percentage of the population that is African American. This is the percentage of the population that is white. So we can see that line, these life experiences, the clogged storm drains, the homicides, these correlate very well with race. And this is non-accidental. Why do we need to know this shape? Why is this shape important to us? I want to show you, this is an urban renewal pamphlet from, I think the 40s, 50s. And what do we see here? Here's North Avenue. Here's Patterson Park, Monroe. We see, right, we've had this line for quite some time. What else do we know about this line? Here's another map. This is our population aged 19 to 24. Why do we think that there's so many 19 to 24-year-olds in this line? Yeah, these are our universities. So we have some structures and some institutions that are sort of bolstering this segregation, that are kind of bolstering this pattern. What we see is our outliers are our HBCUs, our historically black colleges and universities, as well as BCCC. What we see when we look at the cost of these universities is that there's actually really, also we have this pattern of difference. These are, except for UB is not so bad. I teach at UB sometimes, I support UB, but otherwise we have this exclusionary corridor. So I want to start thinking about this exclusionary corridor, the white corridor, the corridor of the gentry. We can call it many things, but I really want to think about the city in terms of corridor. What's this? That's our circulator. Where does the circulator go?
Right now.
Yeah, there's the circulator. We have a really big city. There's our circulator. It's serving our corridor. And here it is on the map. And of course, we all know we have a robust, although not fully functional, bus system in the city. And yet we have the circulator. I won't talk about so much now, but what I will say is that you can see the entire blueprint for sort of city priorities and planning on the circulator map. For McHenry, Harbor Point, these are the destinations at the end. Hopkins Medical, Penn Station, University of Maryland. And if you know anything about very large development projects in the city right now, I think all of them are anchored at the end of circulator lines, right? And so this circulator kind of provides a skeletal infrastructure for development, for building corridor. So here I show that actually if you add in the Hopkins shuttle, which is another kind of exclusionary mode of transportation, then we really get the whole corridor. What I want to talk about then is why is segregation the wrong story? Segregation does not tell us why this is all, why are the storm drains clogged over here and not over, besides sort of inherent racism, what are the structures that perpetuate this? These dots, these green dots, if you can see them, are BDC projects, Baltimore Development Corporation projects. And you can start to see a pattern emerge. So these are the development projects that are sort of spearheaded by the city. If you take out some of the ones on the outside, there are 56 total. This is 38 of them. So 38 of them just sort of bolster this, right? So we're building. We're pouring resources. And what I did earlier this afternoon, I don't have it here because we don't have internet here, but I mapped private development, current private development in the city, and it's shocking. If anyone wants it, I can send you the map. It's exactly this. This is what private development in the city looks like also. So if anyone says that there's not enough money in Baltimore, there's a massive amount of money, right? Each of these dots represents several $1 million, like probably multiple $1 million, right? So we have a lot of money, we're pouring a lot of money in, and you can see when we add in the universities, when we add in the circulator, we're just building, supporting, providing resources for this corridor, strengthening this white corridor, this corridor of gentry. So I am nearly at the end of the shape. Hopefully you have the shape in your head now. This is one of my primary goals. I just want to show you a couple more things that are interesting. These are our vacants. So you can see there are a lot more vacants out here than here. Where do you think the city-owned vacants are? Oh, look, there are the city-owned vacants. The city is acquiring vacant property in one area, right? Even though most of the vacants are out here, the city's acquiring vacants here, right? There are many factors that are pouring resources towards the center, denying resources from either side and also from the south. And I want to focus on one particular area, which is this area where we are right now. To me, this is a critical area, and I went, people, yeah, I know, you've done a film on this, right? Yeah, I know. This is a critical area. Why is this critical? We are right here in the center, right? We are between the harbor and Hopkins, right? And this area has not completely gentrified, has not completely been whitened, has not been completely made for the gentry, right? This is problematic for the game plan. It says, right, push black residents out to the side, farther and farther to the counties, create a corridor for for the gentry, right? For our white gentry. So I'm going to just go through the slides very, very quickly, just so you can see the amount of money that is getting poured into this area. This is a $500 million transit-oriented development project around here. Tax incentives that come along with the arts designation of Station North. This is the MICA Live Near Your Work map, and you can see that this is supposedly near MICA. This is up by Cold Spring, and yet this is not near MICA, right? So live kind of near your work where there are wealthy and white people. Station North gets a lot of grants from the NEA, $150,000 to $100,000. Spruce Up grants. This Barco is developing buildings along Station North. MICA's just built this big building. So there's a huge amount of money being poured into this area, as well as the other areas at the end of the circulator route. This is the last thing, and then I'm done. So that's the shape. I hope you have the shape, and now the figures. I have been spending since the way I sort of approached the uprising was to spend many, many hours with the city budget. And this is what I have found in the city budget. And if we were talking about structural racism, which we are, right? All of what I've just said is we need to understand the structures that perpetuate structural racism. Development is one of these structures. Another structure is funding. And so I just did a couple little graphics about where Baltimore City funding is. So you can see the police get nearly $500 million in the city budget. This is a fiscal year 15 budget. And then I just threw a couple other areas in. So it is well more than health, parks and rec, housing, community development, arts and culture combined. You could throw human services in there as well. 1/4 of Baltimore City's employees are in the police department. There are more employees in the police department than any other agency. There are 3,400 people in the police department. Parks and Rec has 310. The libraries have 388. And where's that little one? Human Services has 170. Human Services is how we take care of Head Start and homelessness.
Wow.
This has 174, and what I will say is the majority of that funding comes from the federal government, not from your local tax dollars, which means that the federal government could take it away and then there's nothing allocated. The majority of the police funding comes from your local tax dollars. There are more employees in the police department than in health, housing, community development, parks and rec, employment development, public libraries, Head Start, reentry, and homeless services. What I will say is this: we all know that our criminal justice system is a racist system, right? We all know that this targets black and brown residents and not white ones. And so when we are pouring money into the police system and extracting money and denying money from health, from housing, from homeless services, right? This is violence. This is structural violence. Do you know what these numbers are? This is a sort of as of today or yesterday. This is the amount of money the city is saying it's spent on the 1 week of the uprising, right? For like police and tear gas and the riot gear. 1 week. This is the annual rec center budget. So that's all I have to say.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Very good.